Hello everybody, this is Fun Police, and I am back with a very spicy deck tech for today. We're taking a look at a deck that is very common on ladder. It's probably one of the most popular decks among new players, but we are taking it in a different direction. Long time ago, like I believe around 2019, Japan Aggro was probably one of the strongest, was a top dominating deck, and it was a Japan US variant. Recently, though, largely after the release of Feigned Retreat with the Theaters of War, we ended up seeing the decks largely shift to a Japan German variant, because Feigned Retreat is, I would say, overall the strongest variant of Japan Aggro. However, with the addition of some of the new cards from Battle of the Bulge, most notably Battery, I've taken it back kind of to what you could call its roots and are playing a more traditional Japan Aggro deck, using blitz threats and mostly having a lot of burn damage. One of the biggest new additions is Battery, which is not only a mixture of removal, but also potentially up to 3 damage worth of burn to the enemy HQ. This kind of dual purpose is very nice to see, because it gives the deck not only some interactivity, but also some extra burn, and just makes the deck able to go through guards a little bit more effectively. Let's get into the deck, talking about the cards itself. So the first one, Expansion. Expansion is a vanilla, is one of the kind of basic staples of Japan Aggro if you're not running Feigned Retreat. Drawing 2 cards if you get into the front line is quite nice, and Expansion just does that. And we have a decent amount of blitz infantry that can take it to set it up. We also run first Signal Regiment. This is a very strong burn card, a staple in Japan Aggro. Being able to turn all of your units turning all of your units into essentially burn in order to deal that extra damage to the HQ can be the life or death difference between winning and losing games. It's an extremely powerful card, and if timed correctly, is able to kind of protect the board from board clears. For example, if you play first Signal the turn before carpet bombing and end up like preventing the enemy from playing it, then not either you have your board remain, or if they do carpet anyway, you might turn that board clear into an additional 4 or 5 damage. That can be very, very powerful. 15th Cavalry Regiment is a standard infantry unit, probably one of the premier units. 0 operation cost for a 2/1 blitz infantry. It's very, very effective, excellent turn 1 play. Late game, it's largely used to kind of turn some of our other cards into burn damage, but I'll talk about that later. We are also running Red Devils. Red Devils is our other 1-drop and is very, very good at helping to contest the front line and be a sticky threat. And we'll see with the US, we have some other buffs in here that makes Red Devils very, very difficult to remove. But 1/3 stat line with Blitz is decently, and taxing the enemy early on can be very hard to deal with. Red Devils helps to lock down the front line and make it just that bit harder to lose control of it for us, which is very nice, because Jaggro can occasionally just kind of fall apart if certain bigger threats come out. So Red Devils gives us some resiliency. We are running a single copy of Unity is Strength. This is kind of where the very, very old Japan Aggro comes from, because long ago there was a US infantry Japan Aggro deck that used to use Unity as a finisher, and we run 1 copy here. Now, you could run more copies, but I feel like just the single copy is enough, because we also have 99th to make use of. It works very, very well with stuff like Red Devils, being able to turn it into like a 3/5 or 4/6, which is extremely hard to remove. But even on just any other unit, you're often able to get 2 or 3 damage out of a unity, and if that can help you trade through a guard or hit the HQ for a lot of damage, it can overall be worth it. We got Desperate Measures in here, probably one of the best Japanese cards outright. It's a 2-credit board clear for 2 damage. Losing a credit slot often doesn't matter in aggro because the effect of blowing up the enemy board and burning them is just so worth it. We also have AKITA Regiment, another staple of Japan aggro. The random damage can oftentimes help you trade into guards, snipe stuff that otherwise wouldn't be hurt, or it can sometimes go into the HQ for extra burn damage. Now, it is a bit random, so you can't reliably make it hit, but generally you can often capitalize on whatever Akita ends up hitting. In that terms, it's overall just an efficient 2-drop. Also have 99th Battalion. 99th pairs very well with 15th Cavalry, being able to turn this into a 4-3 on turn 2 that attacks into the enemy HQ. Also pairs well with Red Devils to buff them up, or just makes anything in general bigger. Very efficient card for helping the push damage or making our board just a little more resilient. We have MITO Regiment, probably another standard card. This is one of the main burn cards of the deck. Not the greatest stat line as a 2-3, but it has Blitz, and being able to burn the enemy HQ directly for damage makes it useful at almost every stage of the game. We have the KI-46 DINAH III, a very efficient card draw engine. With the way our 1-drops are set up, it's drawing us only 15th Cavalry's Signal or Red Devils, all of which are still very good into the mid-game. We don't have any fluff in terms of that. And if you've kept a couple 15th Cavalries, then you can pretty consistently tutor Signal up in the mid-game. Not guaranteed, but it is a very nice utility. We have 2nd Raiding Brigade, another very good overall card. It's one of the few units that is able to have a impactful deployment effect that can blow up enemy units. Makes 2nd Raiding very, very useful. Good at like blowing up a bomber or artillery that's really giving you a headache, and it provides you with a small blitz unit to make use of. We also have the M18 HELLCAT. His main purpose is largely to be a burn card. You can pay 5 credits to deal 4 damage to something in the enemy support line, and generally that's going to be the enemy HQ. Not a whole lot to say. Sometimes that does have a benefit of being able to trade into like a really big tank, but generally you're wanting these guys to only hit the enemy HQ. 442nd is one of the new cards from the Battle of the Bulge, and I think serves a very nice purpose here. As a 3-credit drop with a 4-3 stat line, it's arguably one of our biggest units for its cost. It's relatively cheap to operate and has that annoying ambush, so it's actually pretty good at locking down the front line. And that destruction effect is very, very good at giving us resilience. Being able to have our board not be overcommitted into board clears is actually really nice and gives the deck some extra longevity that it can benefit from in order to find more burn damage. It's not a end-all be-all card, but even just being able to play this like 2 times means that you can essentially always be having some amount of board presence without like running the risk of like a board clear completely destroying you. We also have Sendai Regiments, very efficient 4-drop removal order. You're able to wipe away something like a gigantic guard or some threat that you wouldn't be able to deal with otherwise, giving you more opportunities to deal with it to close the game out. KI-83, just a really big beat stick. 6'5" fighter for 4 credits is a monster to deal with, very difficult. Also gives you a little bit of card draw. The enemy also does get to draw a lot, but honestly that doesn't matter because if this connects with the HQ once, you're often probably going to win that game. Very, very good threat. We have Bombing Raid. This is just a very efficient card that can either be burn or removal. Just overall super flexible. Really, really good. Battery is one of the unique cards of the deck, also from World Battle of the Bulge. Being able to act as either removal or as burn, and a combination of both is very useful. If the enemy has, say, a 1 health unit left on the board, Battery can kill it off and then deal 3 to the enemy HQ. Also, notably, it only says target unit, so you can even hit your own units. And this is one of the extra uses of 15th Cavalry, is that really late into the game, if you're just looking to deal burn damage and 15th Cavalry is not going to do much, you can play this out and then play Battery on it and kill it and deal 3 directly to the enemy HQ. Not always something you want to do, but it can be nice to help you push just that little bit extra damage and maybe close a game out. We also have 1st TAIPEI Regiment, one of our largest drops. It's essentially just additional copies of burn damage, and that's its main purpose, is that destruction effect. Although if it does stick around and it can blitz and fury into the enemy HQ and deal 6 damage for 0 credits, that honestly can be quite good. Works well also with like a removal suit of like battery and Sendai. Can push a decent amount of damage, but the main thing is that it often is going to just be that extra burn onto the HQ. And then finally we have the N1K-J SHIDEN, kind of a staple finisher card for Japan aggro. Ambush, Blitz, Fury on a 5 credit 4/4. You do have to wait till turn 10 if you want to deal the 8 damage with it, but honestly you can even sometimes just use it for the 4 damage at 8 credits and have it out there, but very good finisher overall. And as you see, our deck is very much based around pretty much having a ton of damage from hand. A good portion of our cards above 3 credits all have the ability to damage the enemy directly or deal damage to the enemy HQ on the same turn. So the deck is very, very good at killing people off, even if they have a ton of guards up. I will say that the one weakness of this deck is probably that it is weak to very heavy heal decks. Something like a gigantic Mare Nostrum, like a British-Italian deck using Mare Nostrum alongside stuff like Fortifications is almost impossible for this deck to beat. However, not every deck is running that amount of healing, and we can still deal with like several Fortifications. It's not impossible to overcome some amount of healing, but if the meta is very, very heavy in healing for you and you're seeing like Mare Nostrum on top of several other healing cards, and like the enemies just seemingly half their deck is healing, this deck is definitely not going to perform well for you. It doesn't have the longevity to go through like more than, I would say, 40 to 50 HP on the enemy HQ, especially if like board clears are particularly harmful to you. So it's a deck that is maybe, again, it's not as good as something like the US or the Japan-German Feigned Retreat deck, but it is very fun and still absolutely can win games. In terms of substitutions, you have a couple options. For the US cards, namely 99th, you're able to go with more Unity-ish strength. Kind of a direct parallel, even potentially a little bit better in some circumstances. They swap out quite good, but I like the proactiveness of 99th a little bit more. You also are able to make use of 1st Marines if you don't have the 442nd out there, or M18 HELLCAT. The 1st Marines can fill in that role a little bit. You could also run M16 half-tracks as more ways to deal with enemy air units. This is probably a bit of a tech card, but does do well against stuff like British Air that can bounce like buffed up swordfishes or other big air units, and also can help punch through guards. So it could be a very good tech card. You can also potentially consider the We Can Do It. If you want to go a little bit bigger with this deck, We Can Do It could be a good option, as it's card draw and buffing your units and a little bit of healing, which could be good in mirror matches. In terms of Japan, it's a little bit harder to replace stuff like Signal and Desperate Measures, as some of this stuff is very difficult to replace. But my suggestions would probably be something like Tora, which is essentially like a mini Desperate Measures. Could make it work, maybe. Could lean into Amphibious Assault if you wanted to replace some of the removal, like for Sendai. That could be a good substitution. I'd probably run an additional TAIPEI in place of your missing, some of these missing cards. Type 97 Shinhoto is also pretty good, kind of like a different Hellcat, so you could always swap those. Hayabusa is a very budget way, but could be something to give you more burn. And then beyond that, you could probably run Hein in place of stuff like the Shiden or the Taipeis if you don't have them. So there is a decent amount of options. Definitely a way to build this on a budget, but I think that the list I have is probably the most effective way to run it. So with that said, let's go jump into a couple games and see how it does. Alright, a British deck. So Britain is pretty difficult if it's British Air, although Desperate Measures is a really good pickup. I feel like keeping Red Devils is always good. That's just a very very difficult card to interact with, and 442nd should also be quite good. I'll toss back the Mito, see what we find. Akita's also pretty good now. That can help trade down like a buffed up Swordfish. I guess it depends. Could be a control deck also, where maybe this hand is not as powerful, but it is British Air, so definitely happy that I got the Red Devils out first. Probably do just want to run this into the front line. We're going to set up a desperate measures. He could go and work towards that close air support. Alright. Could get out the 442nd, but that is a bit slow. It might give him time to like get down a quick air support, so I'm going to go with the Akita into the front line. See if we can't pressure that Swordfish to act and him spend his turns doing things not related to that. Goes face. That is not ideal. Much would have preferred if that was something different. There's an expansion. I think Akita into an expansion is the best option here. I need to find some better options. There's the battery. That's nice. That'll help trade down if he goes to, like, say, buff the Swordfish. I think my ideal preference would be he attacks with there, the Akita does that, and then if he doesn't buff, we can go Desperate Measures and set up the 442nd. Well, actually now, I could save Desperate for a later thing. I could do something like play Raiding and 1st Cavalry, although that's actually a bit awkward. I could battery that, kill it, and then put 15th into the front line. I think that's what I'm going to do. But he did leave one credit up, so I'm worried that he's got like some countermeasure that might mess with this plan. I think the best thing might actually just be Raiding and put this and do this. I'm just very nervous about the battery getting countered. One credit, like with a hand of like 5 to 6 cards and him not like having anything to play. I mean, he could just not have anything, but if the battery gets like intercepted or something like that, that's devastating for me. There's an HMS, okay. Close air support. This is actually fine still. Trade in like that. Probably time to get the 442nd out. So he can't really remove the 442nd cleanly. He could send both of these into attack, but then the Raiding threatens to kill the Swordfish. Okay. He's going to deal with it that way. Okay, that's probably got to get batteried. Or we could ignore it and try to set up a stronger board presence. MITO expansion, push that into the front line. I think the fact he keeps leaving one credit up makes me very, very suspicious. I don't trust it. I feel like I'm gonna get baited if I go into that. I prefer not to feed into that. Although maybe he's just absolutely bluffing towards me. It's a tough matchup. We don't have as much interaction as maybe we could benefit from. Yeah, I think we're starting to fall apart here. I'm now a credit off. If I could have played Battery and the KI-83, we probably would have been okay, but now that we don't, like, he's got so much damage on the board, I think I have to go for the Battery. And if this gets intercepted, I'm dead. Okay. Still in a very bad position, I'll be honest. We're playing pure defensive. He's got a bigger hand. He's got a much better board than me. It's a tough matchup. Brit Air is definitely probably one of the toughest matchups to deal with, simply because of how all this is. Yeah, he sadly has me here. I can't do anything. Ah, damn, that's a shame. That's a very hard matchup. The Brit Air gets on the board quickly and gets quite big. Maybe if I had drawn... if he didn't have an answer to that starting Red Devils, then he probably would have been okay, because we would have had a decent board presence, but we just fell behind and we couldn't recover fast enough. So going up against US, depending on what type of US, this could honestly be pretty good for us. I really do like the signal on turn 1, but that is a slow play. I think bombing raid's a good keep in order to blow up in case it's like front line. Might be a bit of a slow hand I'm keeping. Definitely so, but we'll run signal out. US doesn't usually have an answer to signal. That doesn't involve like spending a lot of cards dealing with it. Alright, so it is ramp, which means that it kind of comes down to what ally they have, because we have enough burn to kill them quite efficiently. It's already working towards the nukes. I don't know if I fully agree with that maneuver. We'll just keep filling the board. We got one turn before carpet happens, so we can set this up to deal a ton of damage. It's got that healing, that's annoying. I think we just keep putting stuff out on the board. This will deal a ton of damage. Depending on how the Akita dies, if he does do carpet. Doesn't have carpet, at least at the moment. So I actually want a bombing raid first, and then attack like this, and attack it. That's a good amount of damage. Gets some of the weaker stuff off my board. He's below 20 and quite low on cards. We got a lot of batteries in hand, a lot of burn. Still seemingly doesn't have carpet. Lend-Lease, so he's really going in. So it's such a big hand, I feel like KI-83 is now a good play here. Can expansion first, see what we get. I still feel like KI-83 is probably the best here. Keep putting that damage on. Because he's going to be able to keep drawing and all that, but he might even overdraw, I mean, honestly. He is ramping super hard, my goodness. So if I attack in with the KI-83, puts it in carpet range, but honestly that's fine, because at this point we're essentially trying to, like, kill him as quickly as possible. We're not here to mess around. Keep pushing that damage. We have a ton of burn in hand now, like, double battery, M18, MITO, Signal's gonna be burning for a ton, like, he honestly is a bit in a good amount of trouble. Definitely got a lot of healing. Seemingly trying to keep forcing these nukes, but that's not gonna really help him. Honestly, I don't even want to kill the engineer truck. I feel like we just need to put out more pressure. Keep sending damage in. So he'll be on 2 life if he wipes the board like this. So even if he carpets, he's very low on life, and we have double battery Hellcat in hand. It's got a lot of damage. It's got a lot of forts, though. Alright, he is nuking. Honestly, not that bad of a situation because of so much burn damage. Let's see, what's the best... Can I kill him? I can. So that's 5, and then... yeah, okay. Could have also double batteried with the 15th Cavalry if he had a guard up, so we were pretty good there. That's a win against Ramp. As you see, 442nd did do pretty good work there. Constantly beating down, he couldn't trade into it. If he removed it, I would have just had it back in hand, so it's a nice resiliency card. Although he did play a bit passively. Seemed like a very, very unlucky hand for him, just filled with Ramp, but even if he had a better hand or maybe some more proactive threats, we had enough burn to get through it and probably overcome him. But anyway, that's that game. Alrighty. Another US game. Like the DINAH, and also like the look of that double 15th Cavalry and Battery, I think this is probably... we can probably throw back 1 15th Cavalry. If we're facing off against something like a US front line, I'm going to want to find maybe some bigger cards. Bit of an awkward turn 2. No turn 2 play is sad. Wish I could have drawn an AKITA. Seemingly another ramp deck. I think it's better to get the MITO out. The KI-40, the DINAH can come out later. Very much a ramp deck. Move that into the front line, and I think we'll get 442nd out. That's awkward to deal with. Decent threat, and we're having a bit of a slow game this time. Going heavy on ramp. This is looking mighty familiar. There's a good expansion. Draw some more cards. 99th is a good card to play out. But right now, I think we'll just put an AKITA into the front line. So we have a pretty good way to get through that C4th if he doesn't carpet. Alright. This feels like the same deck, but it's a different person. So how do I want to do this? I honestly don't really want to... I could double buff and trade in with the 442nd. I could see how the AKITA trades, and then go based off that. I think that's what I'll do. So it went face. I think, honestly, buffing this guy, trade like this. And then... I don't think I want to play Red Devil out, to be honest. He's not going to be able to, like, get rid of this ambush, really, so I don't feel a need to trade down the 332nd. I think I'm going to hold on to Red Devils. With him drawing 2 cards going into 11 credits, there's a good chance this might get carpet bombed. And I don't feel like I want to overcommit into that. So he might blitz into it, which, I mean, if he's going to spend an entire, like, 2 cards trading into that just for me to play it again next turn, you know, that's where the resiliency of that card comes in to full force. Digging for answers, seemingly. Going very big on ramp. So I want to probably avoid overcommitting into board clears. So this might be more of a... how should I do this? I could attack with... I could probably do this. Attack like that. Attack like that. And then just push into the front line. Because I don't really need to, like, put out the Red Devils still. Plus, this also means Mito's going to survive a carpet bombing. Also, protect against strategic bombing by getting my front line, or filling the front line up. So he can't, like, board clear most of my stuff. He's got to get a carpet bombing. Okay. Seaborne invasion. I definitely want to probably move the 6-1 into the front line again. We'll play the DINAH. And then we'll get the signal out. And he's not going to be able to kill the signal. Not cleanly, anyway. He'll have to spend an extra card to deal with the signal, which... and if he doesn't and he goes into carpet, these cards will all end up kind of blowing up in his face. So they'll have a very good amount of burn. So I don't have a very good answer to that, to be honest. The Shiden could kill it. I feel like I may just double Hellcat here and really just go in for a ton of damage. Or I can't actually double here, so instead I want to just pressure. Put the pressure on. It's going to be, everything's burning for 1 due to signal, which is really nice. I guess we're just going to kind of race the B-17. That's what it's feeling like to me. I don't feel like it'd be a good idea to try to use Shiden to, like, kill that. I guess we'll see in a couple turns, but with how my hand's leaning, I'm feeling like it's going to be, I'm going to go face with as much as I can, and then we're going to battery to kill off anything with like 1 to 2 health and burn him and finish the game with that. Alright. Can I actually kill him here? Wait. 4. So this would deal 3, 4, 5, 6, and then bombing raid kills. And there we go. That's one of the uses of battery. That's a very nice thing with battery, is that you can use it like that. That's something that doesn't always come into effect, but when it does, it's really nice, because you can even turn like 15th Cavalries into extra burn damage. But that's that. 2 ramp wins. That's nice. Alrighty, and that's going to be it for today. Fun take on Japan aggro. Definitely a very different way than like maybe the more meta variants, but also very fun and can win games. It's got a good amount of reach in it. If you've liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you play with this deck, comment down below how you do with it. If you end up making any changes to it, also let me know down in the comments below. Everything, you know, pretty much all my deck techs are work in progress and stuff that I just want to share with you guys and generate some discussion, so always love to see that. Keep your eyes out, because I got more deck techs coming. Now that I've got these 2 videos, I've got the bypass video and this one done, I've covered most of the Battle of the Bulge cards in a deck. And although there's some other things I want to try around with them, I'm also wanting to cover the new balance patches, so expect some deck techs over that. Probably one of my favorite decks should be coming soon, one of my pet decks, and very excited for that, and I got some other ideas and seen some other things from people, so expect that. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.